Welcome back, everyone, to Stuck in the Mail, episode 57 with Mike and Casey. In this episode, the origins of a sound and the makings of an absolute legend.
Stuck in the mail. Stuck in the mail.
All right, today's episode is on the International Submarine Band, most famously with Parsons featured here. This is Parsons' first band, and we switched it up a little bit here. I'll explain more, but we were going to cover television's Marquee Moon, but Mike was graceful enough to let me cover this album that's been on my mind and on my platter daily, just flipping side one to side two.
Yeah, I mean, we still love television, and maybe we'll get there someday, but we got to go with what we feel, Casey.
So the International Submarine Band, Mike, had you heard of them?
Of course not. Who has ever heard of the International Submarine Band?
Do you mean with an amazing roll off the tongue kind of name like that? It just doesn't, elicit the Rolling Stones top 500 for you?
Yeah, I mean, I had to keep looking it up because I was like, what was it again?
Yeah. For starters here, the International Submarine Band might truly be in the running for one of the worst band names of all time. And this is a very obscure album. No one's heard of him.
Correct.
And the funny thing about that, of course, is this episode, which is largely about the main songwriter and kind of mastermind, Graham Parsons, is he is known for essentially creating his own, what he called music style known as American cosmic music. To the greater masses, it would eventually be coined as country rock, as a hybrid essentially. And I think that Graham, who has been inducted this year into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as an early influencer, which makes a lot of sense, essentially created a hybrid too here that, wasn't country enough for the rock fans, wasn't rock enough for the country fans and wasn't country enough for the country fans. So a hybrid can be a real mixed bag of things. So
Yeah, and I think that as you and I have been researching Graham Parsons, first of all, an endlessly fascinating figure,
yeah.
and more influential probably than anyone gives him credit for. I mean, I think the more you uncover, the more you discover, and you find out that, like we were talking today earlier about how your shirt there, I think that, probably the reason that the Grateful Dead did American Beauty and Working Man's Dead can be traced back to Graham. And I mean, think about the fact that, like, when he joined the Byrds completely changed. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Yeah,
know,
we're
depending on who you talk to, that might have been Roger McGuinn's idea already, and then Graham showed up. But like, he just seemed to have this sway over people where he just was like this charismatic figure that showed up and things changed around him.
Yeah, I think where Graham went, which was a lot of places, from this band into a member of the Byrds, not official member, but into a super group of sorts with Chris Hillman of the Byrds called the Flying Burrito Brothers, into essentially having a successful solo career, having a band with Emmylou Harris called the Fallen Angels. And this is all in a matter of like, that we just talked about is like 7 years,
Yeah.
10 years as a musician. But everywhere Graham went, this sound that he pioneered that would later be known as country rock followed. And you can't think that it's not him. Graham, on this album that we're covering today, the first band, real true band that he was in, he did folk before this, but this album is so country. And what's weird to people is that, country, what was country and what wasn't country was often delineated by really strange things. For example, Graham was really influenced by the Bakersfield sound, and the Bakersfield sound, Buck Owens, Merle Haggard, was based on them using electric Fender Telecasters. They were no longer using kind of acoustic guitars or non-electric stuff in country. And that's what Graham gravitated, and that's what he pulled in, that electric sound. That as you know, as a Dylan fan, how controversial simply just being electric was.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Dylan because I mean, as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, wow, Dylan himself went country a couple years after Graham Parsons showed up. And so like it
Hmm.
just was this he just was this towering figure, but yet weirdly is I'm not going to say an underground figure, but kind of because it's not like you're going to pull up, the Graham Parsons playlist on Spotify. Like he's in, like you mentioned, he's in the Submarine band, then he was in the Byrds, then he was in the Flying Burrito Brothers, and then he had a solo career. But like if you don't know all that context, none of those things, you wouldn't put all that together. And so, like, I just had always heard of Graham Parsons as like this legendary figure, but I was like, I have no idea what he did.
It's
And
it's too true. You have to really. It takes time to even pick out where Graham was and what Graham was doing. But I actually know, I think, why Graham Parsons' career was so varied and so strange. There was something in Graham's life that wasn't in other musicians' life. And I don't know if you want to take a stab at that question, Mike.
um, psychedelic drugs.
Well, those were certainly in lots of other bands' lives, but the most important thing with Graham is that most musicians chase fame and fortune. Graham Parsons didn't need fortune. He was essentially born into an heir of his grandfather in Florida of orange orchards. And by the time he was 18 and left Harvard after a semester, he was a trustafarian that was receiving about 200K a year in today's currency. So he had no care or need for money. So we don't see that a lot in rock or in country or in anything. Most of the time people are chasing that goal. Well, if I get money and get famous and get money, I will be, fulfilled in different ways. But Graham wasn't chasing money. In
Yeah.
fact, I think lots of bands used Graham for money because he didn't care about money. I mean, if you look down the line here, when Graham teams up with Richards and the Stones, they're living in exile from tax escapement from England. They're living in France, so they're probably using Graham's money.
Yeah, you're right. I'm certain that's true.
It
And
is
like,
very true.
isn't it crazy too that like by all accounts, the greatest period of the Stones was when they intersected with Graham Parsons.
Precisely. Sticky Fingers and Exile on Main Street, that gritty, raw. These are British guys. They don't know about honky tonk and they don't know about country. They don't know about harmony from country. They don't know about this, but you have to think how cool they think it is. They're British, living in France, said a portion of this. And Graham comes along and he has a whole different swagger. He's
Yeah,
completely different. And they idolize him.
and the thing with Graham Parsons is like I had heard the legend of, and then I actually sat down to listen to Graham Parsons, and it is very country. It is very Bakersfield.
Yep.
Like it's jarring at first, but there's
Yes.
also something about it that there's a deeper, more mysterious undercurrent that stays with you and seeps down into your soul. And
Yep.
and you listen to him singing Wild Horses. I,
Hmm.
I love the Stones version, everyone does. But when you hear Graham Parsons' voice, or when you hear him singing Hickory Wind
Hmm.
um, with Emmylou Harris later in his career, it's just a lot of these are standards. A lot of these are other people's songs, but he interprets them in a way that is haunting and
It's
unforgettable.
modern. It's modern. It sounds modern. Emoting, the vocal that Graham does, a lot of people think it's too thin. Maybe they don't like the emotion, but when you listen to the sound that he's presenting as a voice, it's there's not really many other comparisons for this time. That's not Dylan. Uh, He's doing something that's way more akin to something modern,
Hmm.
and of course his influence would reach into what would be the late 80s of no depression alt country, even after the whole country rock, after the whole Eagles, and after the tens of millions of dollars that people made in the music industry and bands, essentially using what Graham pioneered here. Now, I'm not saying he's the one all be all, but man, when you look at his career, it is intense the influence that this man had on music. Meanwhile, not caring at all, not caring. He didn't care.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, I think that because money was no object,
Yeah,
it's not that he didn't have anything to prove, but he just had a different bearing when he walked in the room. And it's funny because he would join a band and then leave the band. It just was this like, is this pattern where and I guess a lot of it was because other people, I could, would get tired of his, substances and his
yeah, he
erratic
had
behavior.
problems.
But I'm like, I don't know. I imagine what he must have been like as a person, and he must have been so charming and so charismatic, but also exasperating.
Yeah, I think he had his upbringing. He had manners, and he had the kind of formalities, that a lot of rock stars don't have. Like, he was basically a silver spoon and a paper plate. He had ins probably that even Keith and Jagger didn't have. He was this odd figure. And I want to get back really quickly here. This album, International Submarine Band, really is the start. And what threw me off so unbelievably when I first listened to it is because when you're a Graham fan, you search for his music and it's all over the place.
Yeah.
But there's so much of it right here. There's more than on the Byrds, because the Byrds thing that came next, there was like 3 or 4 more songs with Graham singing, but they had to pull his vocals because Lee Hazelwood, of course, who produced this, had him on contract. So as always, the big villains, the music industry, the producers, in this case, Lee Hazelwood, famed for working with Nancy Sinatra in the late 60s. Also, his girlfriend, longtime girlfriend, Susie Jane Hokum, is the producer here on this album. So there's some masterminds here, and although this album has a terrible name, a silly cover, it's so crucial. Like this is the Graham I want more of. Like I want more of this band.
Yeah. So, like, what draws you to this very early work of his?
Because right away, first song, Blue Eyes, written by Graham Parsons. It's so everything. It's so his sound, and it's already perfected. He's come from being a folk guy, being in various folk bands, but right here, out the gate, track 1, we have Graham Parsons, fully realized American cosmic music.
Where I got chores to keep me busy, a clock to keep my time, a pretty girl to love me with the same last name as mine. And when the flowers wilt, a big old quilt to keep us warm. I've got the sun to see your blue eyes, and tonight you're in my arms.
It's great, and I love that it starts with an original, and yeah, you can just you can hear that there's something different about this man as a songwriter and as a performer and an interpreter.
Most definitely. And you can really hear how Jeff Tweedy and Jay Farrar, Uncle Tupelo and Will Call, those guys, really gravitated. I mean, those guys know the International Submarine Band.
Well, yeah, and I think of bands that I love, like the Jayhawks. I mean, there are none of these alt country bands without like the beginnings of Graham Parsons, and this is just, it's pure country, and it was completely out of nowhere.
Yep. Even the back of this album has many famous people like Glenn Campbell, and he quotes, "Someone should have done this a long time ago, and I think the International Submarine Band really has done it. Need I say more?" Glenn Campbell, the Wrecking Crew guitarist,
So like,
small musician.
so like, what? How come no one has ever heard of this?
I'm gonna go with. I mean, it came out late. Lee Hazelwood had it like I think Flying Burrito Brothers might have even been out. Like this just basically didn't come out. I don't know if it was publishing or
Okay.
what, but a lot of the songs on here are covers. A lot of them are big standards. The next track is a Merle Haggard, which really shows the Bakersfield love, and Graham sings all of these and beautifully. I think I'd like to jump to the third track really quick, Satisfied Mind.
But little they know, 'cause it's so hard to find one rich man in 10 with a satisfied mind.
Now that's an
With a
old kind of favorite.
Yeah.
And the most famous version is Porter Wagner. Now Porter Wagner, he was a Nashville country guy, but he was known kind of as the last, well, not the last, but he was with Dolly. He was
Yeah.
sequins, and he was nudie suits. That's those famous suits that the Flying Burrito Brothers would wear. That meant something to them, that flashiness and that. Country changed. The genre of music changed a lot. By the 70s, country music would almost be reserved to essentially just truck driving music. The working class changed, and what the working class listened to and what they did for a profession changed.
Yeah.
It's wild stuff. But I think Graham, going back to him not having or any need for wealth in creating his music, with the Satisfied Mind, Graham's earnestness here comes through, I believe, even stronger than Porter Wagner, because he's talking about 1 in 10 rich people, have a satisfied mind at best, and most of them are no better off than poor people. They're just hungering for money or hungering for more money. But what matters is having that satisfied mind at the end of the day.
That's right. And
I love that.
You're right. It is a really interesting song choice for someone who has everything by the world standards, or at least the opportunity to have everything. And yeah, this song is haunting. It's haunting no matter who's doing it. And the first time I ever heard this song was with what's his name? Jeff Buckley. I heard him do first time I ever heard the song, and it was very plaintive. And of course, at that point, Jeff Buckley had already died, and it was just this really haunting thing. But yeah, hearing it's probably the highlight of the album for me is hearing this
It's
one.
really good. I unfortunately stumbled across the Dylan one off Saved, I believe, and oh my goodness,
it's not great.
I shouldn't even mention it. It's amazing he covered it. I mean, that's the whole thing with the quote unquote country label, which is so generic. It's a mix. Like Graham was a soul guy. He loved soul. There's lots of soul covers, especially with the Burritos. He loved all music, and I don't think he really liked labels. I think he was using country music in his music, but what he wanted to do was create cosmic American music. This music, and I have a definition, the cosmic American music, is a genre blending style coined by Graham in the late 60s, fusing country, rock, soul, folk, and blues into a dreamy counterculture sound. It aimed to unite traditional American roots with youthful psychedelic perspectives. The philosophy and legacy. Long hairs and rednecks. Parsons intended this music to unite opposing American cultural factions without conflict. See, that's why I bring it up here for the 250th, because there's a lot of people that are kind of getting back more into when America was great, and what kind of music was around, and what kind of culture was around, and what kind of jeans people were wearing. The old weird America. The genre often seek to evoke a nostalgic, romanticized, and spiritual vision of the American landscape and the past. We all have to realize that if you're into country music, if you're into what was country and Western music, what was before that hillbilly, those people, that time doesn't exist. You are kind of putting on a facade.
Yeah.
But it's fine to listen to something and be reminiscent or wish of that time again, So
That's good.
I wanted to make that point. And
That's
I also wanted to say there's another fascinating thing here at work, and it involves instrumentation. So One thing that's super interesting in what a lot of people think makes country is not the yawl or the drawl or the look. It's the steel guitar, more specifically the pedal steel, which is played with your foot, or the lap steel, which is played on your lap. It has a very unique, usually lead sound. When you hear it, your mind will go, that's country music.
Yeah, and it is not something that in this particular version of country, it is not hidden. It is front and center. And if you when you think about Wilco and you think about Jayhawks and you think about some later iterations of this blending of rock and country, pedal steel is not part of it, or at least it's very much in the background. It's more for ambiance. Whereas
Right.
here, pedal steel is the first thing you hear, and it will
It
put
is.
you in the right, era.
Well, I used to be the kind of guy that didn't love a lot. I took all the love they offered me with ease, and it didn't make
And it's even funnier. I'm sorry I'm such a wealth of knowledge on this stuff, but it's even funnier to realize that the pedal steel itself is not country. It's Hawaiian.
Uh-huh.
This is Hawaiian music, former territory, and it is that sound. It's not played the same, but the pedal steel is a Hawaiian instrument, and country music, as we know it, especially this period we're talking about, is much more akin to Hawaiian music.
Yeah, that's true. So shout out to JD Manis playing pedal steel on this one.
Yep, yep. Good old JD, as it's written on the album.
Love it.
So we got to touch on track 4 here, though, on side 1, because Graham goes into something near and dear to my heart. A medley of 2 tracks, Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash, and then right into That's All Right by Arthur Crudup, popularized by the one and only son artist Elvis Presley on his very first single side.
Well, my mama, she done told me, Papa done told me too. Son, that gal you're fooling with, she ain't no good for you. But that's alright, that's alright, that's alright now, mama, in the way that you do.
So
And Graham really idolized Elvis, right?
he really he saw Elvis when he was young. He's got a bit of an Elvis look to him. His eyes is a little droopy. I'm sure the girls all loved him just like Elvis. But yeah, Elvis was a big deal to Graham.
Well,
in a
he
different-
ended up collaborating with a lot of Elvis's players, right, on his solo albums later.
Graham Parsons on his solo 2 albums, one that was posthumous, has the TCB band, Elvis's band. And keep in mind, Elvis is still alive. Elvis dies in 77. Graham dies in 73.
Yeah, true.
And I think a lot of people know about that. And we can touch on it really quick here.
I mean, that's the
You can
thing.
see
Like,
the movie starring Johnny Knoxville.
I mean, YouTube is full of stories about the mysterious, cremation of in the desert, Joshua Tree, and the whole thing. But I don't know. It's kind of macabre. I mean, it's part of the story, but I just love like talking about the music here.
Yes, yes. As a personal note, he did pass at the Joshua Tree Inn in room 8. I have stayed in room 9 with my wife, which is known as the Emmylou Harris suite. It's very difficult to get room 8. Yes, I know that's macabre, but you'd be surprised because the Joshua Tree Inn in America, there's not many places that are truly like fan-made shrines. And let me tell you, you can feel Graham Parsons' spirit and soul there. So
Wow.
it's very special, and it's a very small place. And Graham literally is everywhere there. He's in the rocks, he's in the trees. There's literally memorials to him everywhere that the fans have made.
That's cool.
So it's something. It's something else, and it's something to be, observed if you're a fan. And it's not. It's not macabre. It's just beautiful. It's really something. So and
I'd
he
love
loved
to
the
see it.
desert. So
Well, I really like this medley too. I think what strikes me about it is how perfectly at home he feels singing these two songs and blending them together. He's perfectly relaxed. He's in complete command, telling the story. That's the what makes him great is he's sharing the story. He becomes the narrator, and you believe him.
Yeah. And it sounds cool now to cover these two Sun songs, but in the mid 60s, 66, this is not cool, people. This is the least cool move you can do. And Graham Parsons never cared about what was cool.
That's
I
true.
really get that feeling from him. He had outlandish outfits, he had outlandish everything. And he was a true rock star. Like, I mean, he hung out with Keith Richards. That's like the quintessential rock star, drug-addled lunatic. And Graham's just like, let me hang out with you. Says a lot.
I was just looking at the release date. It was 68, but he recorded this like what, 66?
I think so, yeah. Nice work, Lee Hazelwood.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it was even more uncool when it came out. It was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, not by
But look
then
how,
Sergeant Pepper had come out and everything was bigger
yeah,
and
two of the guys have Colonel Sanders Southern Boys stuff on. I mean, this couldn't be a more uncool album, but in 2026, is this not one of the best Graham Parsons albums? I know you haven't heard everything, but it's so good out the gate that's
yeah.
what strikes me about it.
Yeah, the confidence, the just he's a fully
His
formed.
voice. His
Yeah,
voice is there.
his voice is there, and he just is again in command. He just feels like a front man. Like he is he's like a Jim Morrison, or he's like a Prince, or he's like one of these people
Yeah.
that just has this quality about him that is completely magnetic, and you can tell on this album. And so I can see why this is like buried treasure, because it's like here are the beginnings.
Yeah, when people like this is a rare album, and although it looks really dorky, it is a really good. I mean, it needs someone for Record Store Day needs to redo this thing, make it look a little cooler.
I know, like colorize it so we can see those suits.
Something. I mean, the great thing is Graham. You can't deny Graham here with the bowler hat and just chilling, and he looks like he's 20, which I think he is, and it's just amazing. I mean, I think the guy could have done whatever he wanted. He had the innate skill, he had the resources, he had the money, he had the backing. But we haven't got into the tragedy. But even at the beginning, there was tragedy in Graham's life. His dad killed himself. His mom drank herself to death. He was left with his stepfather, who he loved. He took his stepfather's last name. The man's name is Ingram Cecil Connor III. His name is not Graham Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
So he, out of this, terrible beginning, grew Graham Parsons that was the absolute influencer that he was. I mean, this guy's Instagram had 10 million in 1966, Mike. To sound dorky.
Yeah,
But
agreed.
it's so true. Like, people just want he's an enigma to talk about. He's one of those legends.
Yeah. I,
It
I I think it's really cool too when you hear from people who knew him. Like I'm a big fan of Emmylou Harris, and
uh-huh.
she has a lot of songs that are about him, whether directly or indirectly. And you know, even when you listen to like her live recordings, like she will play Flying Burrito Brothers songs. She will play songs that they sang together. And you can tell that even all these years later, he just has this hold on her. And,
Mhm.
they were never like a couple as far as I know, but he just was this towering presence for her and remains.
He early on believed in her and pushed her to, she was in the Fallen Angels group, and toured with them. And apparently she actually pushed them to really rehearse and really tighten their sound together. So it goes both ways, it was an iron sharpening iron kind of thing with them. But, Luxury Liner, which is the third track on side 2 here on ISB, or band or whatever this stupid band is called. Uh, is a main like Emmylou song, and
Yeah.
she's covering the International Submarine Band.
I've been around. Everybody ought to know what's on my mind. You think I'm lonesome, so do I, so do I.
Yeah, it's cool.
It-
She, you know,
it-
she does a version of Lucinda Williams' song, "See What You Lost When You Left This World, This Sweet Old World," and I can't help but think that she's singing to him. It's beautiful to die so young and with so much life, and to be, what an incredible presence he must have
yes.
been.
And we don't want to end on a dark note here. No spoilers here, but Graham didn't even make the 27 club. He died at 26. So, in the realms of music and legends, like a Kurt Cobain comes to mind pretty quick, but it didn't have anything on Graham's output. The man has a large amount of output over various bands and albums and friends bands, but he does have a lot of output.
Yeah, for sure. And you have to, you can't think about him without imagining all the ways that his influence has spread. I mean, I think about like Tom Petty, a fellow Floridian, uh, that I don't think Tom Petty's music would sound the way it does without the influence of Graham Parsons. Like the Wildflower is my favorite Tom Petty album, which we'll probably do someday. The echoes, there's echoes here. I think about a Grateful
Yeah.
Dead performances from the early 70s. Like
Hmm.
my favorite Dead live album where they do Bird Song, which is of course about Janis Joplin, but there's something about it that's that cosmic American music, and they tapped into something that was running straight through Graham Parsons' music too. And it's just
Yep.
his light just kind of
Yeah.
continues
I
to
mean,
extend.
the Grateful Dead thing is really wild because I mean, they were also a psychedelic band. You know, International Submarine Band even here is considered a psychedelic band. It doesn't make as much sense, but certainly Flying Burrito Brothers gives off that. And when they played with Grateful Dead, they had three tours. Or, I'm sorry, three shows, and it was rumored that Jerry couldn't get enough of Sneaky Pete, the Flying Burrito Brothers steel guitar player. And you know, here's a guy who is classically trained banjo player. So he right away is like, "Oh wow, I want to play this. I want to play." They want to play Americana, what would be later known, that kind of music. You know,
Yeah.
that sound. You know, why has the pedal steel or the lap steel? Why has it disappeared? I
Yeah.
think it's because it is so attached to the sound of the era of, you know, country into country rock that people are afraid to touch it, you know?
And I love the fact that it's not that this music is not pretentious. Like I think that
Oh, no.
sometimes alt country can maybe veer
Right.
into that territory, but like this is like honky tonk music. Like this is
Yeah.
like they would go play in clubs and it would be like this is like the Bud Light and the peanut shells on the floor and the.
Yeah, no, it is. And the artists that Graham loved, you know, in recent times have become cooler. But, you know, if you told someone you were into Porter Wagner and Buck Owens and Merle Haggard
Elvis.
and Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash and all these names, you know, we all appreciate them now, but we didn't appreciate them 10, 30 years ago, you know?
Yeah, and at the time it was Sergeant Pepper and Pet Sounds and
Yeah.
all of that. And here these guys are doing something that would then in the early 70s is when everyone else started doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when the Eagles come along and just cash in.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
They really take it and run. They really do. They take it to the limit. One
Yeah.
more time.
Nice.
To the
And
bank.
like if he had lived, like you have to wonder, like if Graham had lived, where would it have gone? We'll never know.
I don't know. I think Graham got, if I can, you know, ponder the Graham Parsons story some more here. I think Graham got out and said what he wanted to say. I think the man was unfulfilled in other ways. I think that he was looking for more of a partner. He was married and he did have some trouble, and I think he had, a lot of suitors probably, but I think he was looking for a deeper spiritual fulfillment. And I think that he really said in his music how he felt. There's one artist that comes off, even though country rock or American cosmic music, he was pretty emo. A lot of his songs and live recordings you could find, he's expressing himself, and he's not putting on a front. He was an emo guy, way back for the kids there.
I just would like, I think about our Build-A-Band episode. Like he would be a key player if you wanted to build a band.
Yeah, no, exactly. And
which is essentially what he did. I mean, he kept building bands.
Over and over and over again, each one more confusing with a worse name than the last.
I mean, for me, the best album he was ever a part of has to be Sweetheart of the Rodeo. I don't know. For me, it all comes together there. I know that he was removed from a couple of tracks, but again, his presence is there.
Yeah.
And
Hickory Wind.
Wind. And you got to love the first Burrito album too.
Oh yeah.
So, you
got to love those Nudie Cone suits right there.
It's iconic in every way. And
Graham is truly expressing himself here with his barbiturates and marijuana leaves and other interests of him. But I think the real winner here is the steel player. Because Sneaky Pete here has a pterodactyl. These are, by the way, are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, all four of these suits.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, Sneaky Pete with the pterodactyl nudie. He must have been an interesting guy.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that Graham is now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't think I realized that.
Yeah, he got in for early influence. So.
Well, it was a nice ride, Casey. Thank you for sharing.
It was. Check out ISB or IS Band or International Submarine Band. Safe at Home. We haven't mentioned the name, which is also confounding and boring.
Yeah, completely forgettable.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with any of the songs that I know of.
If you find this album, even if it's really beat up, buy it because it fetches pretty good money and someone owes us wants it because it's great.
Are we ready to move on to what's next?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, I said that the Graham's light continues to shine and illuminate the landscape. I'm going to talk about an album from 2010 from a band that I'm not sure that you know of, but they are in many ways carrying the torch of vintage music, and particularly on their very first album, which is self-titled by the Secret Sisters.
Oh, cool.
Have you heard of them?
No, but it sounds good. It sounds like some Appalachian fun, fiddle. I'm expecting fiddle here.
Not a lot of fiddle. Oh. It's actually more like Everly Brothers, kind of.
Okay.
Mixed with old country and just really charming. They're actually from Alabama and a very Southern sensibility. They tour around here a lot. We've seen them 3 or 4 times.
Oh, nice.
And they are the real deal. I think you're going to love it. So Secret Sisters, self-titled. Their whole career is fascinating, which we can get into. But anyway, going to keep the country going.
Sounds good. We never mentioned essentially Graham's biggest hit is Love Hurts, which people think is an original, but it's actually an Everly Brothers. And that's what made me think of that when you said Everly Brothers. And of course, Nazareth's hit is the one most people know. But yeah, Love Hurts. It's on, I want to say
self-titled.
Angel.
Or not self-titled, but one of his.
GP.
Yeah, I forget which one, but
yeah, I think it's GP. But anywho, yeah, I mean, he never really had a standout, but yeah, great. I can't wait. Secret Sisters, huh?
Secret Sisters.
Love it.
Well, thanks everyone for listening.
Keep it locked. Or something. Thank you.